Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Deck Musings. So, in our journey through the standard timeline, we're here. And as I've pointed out in other episodes, I find this period really fascinating for lots of different reasons, but one of them being the size that the standard card pool could get to potentially, because of the presence of Cold Snap, which was an additional set which was sort of tucked in, but also because we had 4 of these mini blocks. So when we get to the next episode, we're going to have a situation where we've got actually 9 sets in standard. And I know over Magic's history, the amount of sets in standard has fluctuated quite a bit. And maybe if you started playing Magic sometime just after, 2009 into 2010, you probably started to experience a time of the year where you had both blocks, so 6 sets, 2 sets of 3, and 2 core sets for that period between the release of a new core set and the first set of the next block, where the card pool amount would go down, and one, the earlier of the 2 core sets would rotate out. So there was that. There was a period, like me, when you started seriously collecting Magic, I suppose, about that time, or getting into it much more, and started to understand what standard was. Experience periods of the year where there are 8 sets. So we've got 8 sets here, but we're going to get up to next week 9 sets in standard. Anyway, but I've mentioned it several times already because of the fact that we had this additional inclusion of Cold Snap, and if you go back in time, you can see for a period of time that the most amount of sets it ever got was 7 at any one time. And now we have a situation where potentially, and when we do next week's episode, it will be the case that we get up to a standard with 9 sets in it. But anyway, at the moment we're here, and that's what this week is about. It's about the sort of 8 sets of Cold Snap, the whole of Time Spiral block, including this little time-shifted bit from Time Spiral. So that, does they count that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, so they don't count that, which is good. So this is actually all one set, but it's good to see it separated out because the cards are so different, and the fact they're older cards represented. Yeah, so we got 10th edition, and then we've got the whole of the first smaller sort of mini block, Lorwyn and Morningtide, and now we've got the first of the second part, which is Shadowmoor, and then next week we'll get on to Eventide, and then after that we go small again. So, yeah, we're here, PT Hollywood in May. That's what we're going to be looking at. So what did the meta look generally when you look at what was around in tournament play and thereabouts? So, Blue-Black Fairies, something called Gassy Knoll. What is that? Revelark, Black-Green Elves, Red-Green Snow. So we still had Cold Snap, so there was room there to do some snow shenanigans. A Black-Green Rock, Quick and Toast, Mofurk and Dorian. So what are we going to look at? Well, if we look at actually the top 8, it is a standard tournament. As you know, I do tend to sometimes look at block constructed if there's any interesting things around, but I decided I wanted to look at this one. The winning deck was a green black elf stroke rock deck, and this is the one I'm going to be looking at. So let's have a look at MTG top 8 and get an idea of what else, what did the other decks look like. Something I've been pointing out quite a bit now, and in this episode I think in particular it's going to result in us getting through some of this stuff fairly fast, because now we've seen a lot of these cards in numerous episodes, so I don't really have much more to talk about beyond, if they were a part of a cycle or something like that. But what we're noticing a lot of recently is a lot of non-basic lands and very few basic lands. So we're going to see in a moment when I click on these different decks that were in the top 8. Was that true of all of the decks in the top 8? This one you can see we've got 24 creatures, including Tarmogoyf, which is appearing quite a bit. And we've got things like Profane Command, Terror, Thoughtseize. In Lorwyn, we had the arrival of Planeswalkers, albeit at that point they were still, Mythic wasn't a thing at that point, so they were rare. And then we've got this sideboard, and I suspect here we're going to see the usual suspects. We seem to see quite a few cards that seem to always be included in sideboards, or certainly the decks we've looked at anyway. And again, I'm assuming that was to deal with particular threats. So, Green Black Elves is the deck we are looking at. But let's have a look at some of the others before we start to go through and go down our various rabbit holes, as is the case with this series. Okay. Merfolk. Lots of snow-covered islands there. Revelark in the sideboard. We got Sig. 2 copies of Sig mainboarded. Interesting. And let's have a look. It's being a bit sluggish today. I've seen Mutavault crop up quite a few times. It's interesting, sort of white blue potentially. And blue, okay. So we are including white care of our dual land here. Okay. Another Elves deck. Not dissimilar by the look of things. Revelark deck. Again, look at the different types of lands we are seeing there. Dorian. Whoa, okay. And just to refresh your memory, and again, this is being very sluggish today for some reason. White, black, green. Fairies deck, another Revelark deck, and this Snow Mana Ramp deck. Another deck with Kitchen Finks in it. That's in the sideboard for the deck we're going to look at. Okay, let's get into here and have a look. So 24 creatures. We've got them in ascending casting cost order. So we have 1 copy of Boreal Druid, single green. It's a snow creature elf druid from, not surprisingly, Cold Snap. Tap, add 1 to your mana pool, so that's 1 colourless mana. We've also got 4 Llanowar Elves, which is a single green, 1/1, taps for green mana. So we have actually 5 1-drop mana producers. Then 2 drops, we have Tarmogoyf, which has been appearing a lot in decks we've been looking at. So if you're not familiar with this, its power is equal to the number of card types among cards in all graveyards, not just your graveyard, but all graveyards. And its toughness is equal to that number plus 1. So there's a reminder text here that reminds you at that point in time the types are artifact, creature, enchantment, instant, land, planeswalker, sorcery, tribal. But when this deck came out, which was Future Sight, there were no planeswalkers. I understand that they were supposed to be featured in Future Sight, but they weren't. They weren't ready, or some other related reasons. So they end up in Lorwyn, but they are, foreshadowed in here. We've got 4 copies of Wren's Run Vanquisher. So 1 and a green, 3/3. So interesting how what are we going to have to pay extra here to get a 3/3 for 2? So there's a neutral cost to play Wren's Run Vanquisher. Reveal an elf card from your hand or pay 3. And this also has Death Touch on it. So around this time we were seeing several cards which made you like reveal certain cards in order to get something. So here it's just casting it, but I'm sure we'll see maybe other cards on there, other cards with that sort of thing on it. Civic Wayfinder, so 2 and a green, 2/2. When it comes into play, you may search your library for a basic land card, reveal it and put it into your hand. If you do, shuffle your library. So we've got another card which is helping with our mana. And you can also see that at this point in time, every creature we're playing is in green. We've got 4 Imperious Perfects, 2 and a green, and it gives other elf creatures you control +1/+1. Green tap, it'll put 1/1 green elf warrior creature tokens into play. So of these, so far, only the Lurgoyf, only the Tarmogoyf is not an elf. And also at the top end we have this 4-drop Chameleon Colossus, which we've seen before. This came from Morningtide. So 4 for 4/4. It's changeling, so it counts as an elf, and it has protection from black. So 2 and 2 green, Chameleon Colossus gets +X until end of turn, where X is its power. Now the other thing, because it has protection from black, it means any black cards which mean we might want to be targeting creatures for maybe a combat trick or whatever, for some advantage, we can't do for this because this has protection from black. So instant here, so removal for non-artifact, non-black creatures, but also they can't be regenerated, so this will blow them up. It's 1 and a black, common from 10th edition. And land base, so we've got 3 forests. This is the Shadowmoor artwork. We've got 4 Gilt-Leaf Palaces which do black and green, so dual lands, but this is what I was talking about. So when they come into play, you may reveal an elf card from your hand, but if you don't, it comes into play tapped. So if you do, it's untapped, and this will, once it's untapped, it will generate black or green. We've also got Llanowar Wastes, so 4 of those from 10th, and these will generate colourless mana, but if you want to generate black or green, then you have to be prepared to take 1 damage. Mutavault, 4 of those, colourless your mana pool, but for 1 colourless it becomes a 2/2, also 1 mana of any colour. It becomes a 2/2 creature with all creature types until end of turn. It's still a land. So all creature types, again, this will get buffed by your Imperious Perfect. Pendelhaven's in here, care of the sort of special time-shifted time spiral cards in that slot. Target 1/1 creature gets +1/+2 until end of turn. And I believe something in here is So Imperious Perfect is kicking out 1/1 green elf warrior. Creature tokens. 2 swamps, 4 treetop villages, another card which will convert into a creature. In this case it's a 3/3 green ape creature with trample, so we don't get any elf pump benefits. And this one again from 10th edition, and Urborg again. Each land is a swamp in addition to its other land types, so very useful in any deck that's featuring black. Hasn't come up yet, I don't think, but if we happen to be playing Swamp Walk, because it's doing all lands, yeah, that would be helpful, but I haven't seen it being a thing so far, I don't think. 2 planeswalkers in the deck. Garruk Wildspeaker, or 2 copies, should I say. 2 green, 3 loyalty. Untap 2 target lands. It's +1. -1 is to put a 3/3 green beast creature token into play. And the -4 creatures you control get +3/+3 and gain trample until end of turn. We have 7 sorceries in total, 4 Thoughtseize. So a hand disruptor, single black, target player reveals his or her hand, you choose a non-land card from it, that player discards that card, you lose 2 life, and then 3 Profane Commands, so X and 2 black, and you get to choose 2, so we have a modal spell here, and out of the following list, so target player loses X life, scaling off the X here you can see, or return target creature card with converted mana cost X or less from the graveyard to play, or target creature gets -X until end of turn, or up to X target creatures gain fear until end of turn. So real interesting utility on there. So you got ability to deplete your opponents, or well, any player actually. Not that you probably want to target yourself, but yeah, you could if you wanted to. Yeah, so life depletion, removal. Sorry, not removal. What am I saying? That's down here. Graveyard recursion, I meant to say. Removal through -X, and then fear. It's sorcery speed. So, yeah. Sideboard, we've got Slaughter Pact. So, yeah, interesting cycle of cards from Future Sight. This is one of them. So 0 to cast. But with these, the cost was at the next upkeep. And for this one, 2 and a black, or you lose the game. And this destroys a target non-black creature. Squall Line, X and 2 green. Squall Line deals X damage to each creature with flying and each player. Got Kitchen Finks in here, which is from Shadowmoor. So 1 green-white hybrid comes into play, you gain 2 life. It's got persist, so it's doing some -1/-1 shenanigans. And then we've got 2 Primal Commands. So, yeah, a green version of this. 3/2 green. So target player gains 7 life, or put target non-creature permanent on top of its owner's library, or target player shuffles his or her graveyard into his or her library, or search your library for a creature card, reveal it, then put it into your hand and shuffle your library. So we've got some tutoring going on there. 2 Shriekmaws. It's got Evoke on it, so you can cast it for 4 and a black. It's a regular 3/2 creature. When it comes into play, it will destroy a non-artifact, non-black creature. Notice it says when it comes into play, destroy target non-artifact, non-black creature. It's not a may. It's got fear on it, but you can evoke it. So if you evoke it, you just get this bit. And then we've got 3 Cloudthreshers. So pretty heavily invested in green here. 2 and 4 green. With flash and reach, it's a 7/7. When it comes into play, it deals 2 damage to each creature with flying and each player. But you can evoke that as well, if you want to. So yeah, interesting deck. Pretty straightforward mana curve. So most of our mana is around 2, but it curves in nicely and curves out nicely. The mana generators are pretty close to the pips as well. So hopefully you would expect that this would be a fairly sort of smooth deck to play because of that. But you can see the divide here, can't you? You can sort of see, well, you know, we've got all of our creatures in green, and then our support spells, if you sort of exclude sort of, I suppose to some degree the Planeswalker exists in both worlds because it's spitting out creature tokens. But then a lot of the support spells are in black, that's where we're using black. Particularly if if you're not in its raw form, just as is, without sideboarding anything in. And then we've probably got a pretty equal mix, haven't we, in the sideboard. It's interesting as well here, because of the hybrid mana, we don't have to worry about the fact this is white here. So another interesting thing when you've got sets with hybrid mana in it. So gain 2 life. Yeah, I was just curious. There was a bit of a life gain thing going on here, and I wondered if that was being leveraged in any way. I suppose, yeah, again, you can use it to counteract the effect of this Thoughtseize here. So yeah. Okie doke, here we go. So yeah, very nice artwork. There's our full Shadowmoor artwork. There's our swamps. Nice and gnarly. I do like gnarly swamps. Gnarly forests, gnarly swamps. Yes, there was a general gnarliness to this deck. No doubt we'll see what the artwork looks like in a lot wider sample. Because this Friday, same week this goes out, we've got the artwork video, which is starting to prove popular. Well, at least by my current viewing figures. But yeah, I'm definitely seeing increased viewership on that, so that's good because I enjoy making that video, as I do enjoy making all my videos. So yeah, Llanowar Wastes. I don't know what to add really more than I've been adding over multiple weeks. Apart from, well, yeah, it was a Cycle of Painlands, which were reprinted in 10th edition and had come from previous sets, similar to Noxious Bio and Better Than the Pine Barrens, which is the one that comes into play tapped. Yeah, I was quite surprised, and I know someone else had commented that I'd completely forgot about these, like doubly insulting dual lands, where not only if you want the colour of mana, you've got to it deals 1 damage to you, but also that it comes into play tapped, which is quite amusing. These tap pain lands, just going off at a bit of a tangent here because it's probably been a few weeks since I originally mentioned these, but just to refresh your memory, these were from Tempest. And yeah, like someone else commented, I did have that, oh, I didn't know these existed moment, even though I think I've got them in a binder somewhere, possibly. Yeah, good old Mutavault. How much are these still? Yeah, still pretty pricey, I suppose, relatively speaking. Just above 10 bucks. Yep, so in this deck, what's cool is that, it's becoming a changeling, so you get that nice interaction with Imperious Perfect. And similar to Misha's Factory. What does Misha's Factory? That does actually become an assembly worker artifact creature. so you don't really get the benefit of that. But it does that sort of similar thing where, yeah, it can tap for colourless mana, yeah, it generates a 2/2 creature, but Mishra's Factory, you get this additional pump business for target assembly worker creatures. So if you've got multiple copies of, well, particularly Mishra's Factory, but I did look up this before actually, but I don't know if there's many things that kick out target assembly worker creatures. Well, let's look, shall we? Seeing as I know I have probably gone down here before. Okay, so maybe I haven't. But you can see there's not that many. Let's put the full thing in, shall we? Okay. Assembly worker. And then we want to do is first printing. Okay, there we go. So there's Mishra's Factory from way back. And the first time we really got an assembly worker that wasn't a token, or wasn't, sorry, it wasn't getting transformed, or whatever you want to call it, was this. This one, as this factory, is actually spitting them out. So both of these come from Time Spiral. We've got Self-Assembler, Autonomous Assembler, and Mishra's Foundry. Okay. Which is, I think, the one we were looking at, weren't we? Is that right? So factory... Oh no, this factory is just all sort of buried up. Oh yeah, okay. It's all buried up in here. I didn't spot that. Yeah, so... I don't think really... I suppose, well, you could... Yeah, I have to be careful, don't I? Because you can pull this off, of course, with changelings, which I always forget. So, yeah, I always tend to forget that. So with anything like this where there's not many of that creature type, it can be pulled off with changelings. Or any card that says, you know, this is all creature types. So yeah, you could do an assembly worker tribal, I suppose, if you can find enough of those, and then finding a particular commander that would complement that. I don't even know. I mean, this is a rabbit hole we don't go down very often, but sometimes it's fun to do this. Create a token that's a copy of a target artifact you control, except it's a 1/1 soldier creature token in addition to its other type. So that does work. And you could run... I'm trying to... It's sort of escaped my memory, but there's a sort of 5-colour commander, isn't there, where you can use where other... you don't really have any appropriate commander for that particular creature type, and it does some buffing. I've got it in a beast deck, I think, that I built. Okay, moving on. Treetop Village, yep, again something we've seen before on several occasions, and yeah, Urza's Legacy originally. Mono-coloured creature lands. It's been reprinted a few times. And this one comes in Care of 10th edition. Yeah, there's a lot of interesting land in 10th edition. Pendelhaven, which comes from the time-shifted bit of Time Spiral, which was all part of the set, and as a consequence made quite a few interesting cards legal in Standard at that point. Yeah, and again, we've looked at this, and yeah, from way back, this cycle. Again, been reprinted, yeah, some of them more than others, basically. Urborg Tomb of Yawgmoth, another one we have seen. It's been cropping up a lot in a lot of decks since this particular set came out in and the sort of standard meta. And again, Blanket of Night we looked at previously, and this whole area of land conversion, and then Llanowar Wastes. Turned up quite a few times. Yep, Cycle of Painlands. Another cycle that's been reprinted quite a few times. We saw, what was it, the Llanowar Wastes in other tournament decks from this particular tournament. Okay. Wren's Vanquisher, Lorwyn. We printed a few times, so what can we learn from this? Okay. Oh yeah, this tribal revealer thing. So there was a cycle of them, and you had, let's just do this. Doesn't look like we've looked at these before within this series. I mean, when I did the set musings for this, I would have covered this, I think, and so I'll include a link to the set musings in the descriptions. Or well, it's not. I know I would have actually. That would have been in a previous week. I tend to only like to include the set musings for the particular set that this is around. So, we're around the period of the next mini block. Actually, first set from the next mini block. So yeah, but anyway, you can. It's pretty easy to find all of my set musings are on a playlist, so it's not too hard. Okay, is first printing. There we go. Just in case the artwork's any different. Okay, Gold Medal Stalwart, Silver Gill Adept, Squeaking Pie Sneak, Flamekin Blade Whirl, and Wren's Vanquisher. They're all pretty names that I'd easily mangle here. But you can see the cost if you don't have a particular card. So the white's Kithkin, blue's Merfolk, black is Goblin, red is Elemental, and green is Elf. If you don't have those particular colour cards, particular type of cards, then yeah, extra cost for you of 3 added onto this. So suddenly you get a 2/2 for 4 on the black, or this one. So these two here are the cheapest. They're both 1-drops if you're able to reveal these particular types. If not, then they're going to cost you 3, and then the colour, and then the rest are all 2-drops. Right, good old Llanowar Elves. The trouble is now we've seen so many mana dorks, and this idea of a green elf that in some way helps out with your mana. So we've got Llanowar Elves plus functional reprints, which will do this, add green to your mana pool. And then there's other elves on the curve which may add more mana or the same amount of mana for certain sets, or do some sneaky stuff with your land, getting your land out, or untapping stuff is another way. So here it is, it's similar to Elvish Mystic. Well, yeah, it's a functional reprint. Druid of the Cowl, that's 1 and a green, 1/3. Findorn Elves is another 1/1 for 1 green that taps for green. Animal Tribe, 3 green, taps for 3 green, and it's a 3/3. Priest of Titania, 1 and a green, 1/1. Add green for each elf on the battlefield. So that one actually scales based on elves. So that, I'm assuming, would not have been legal in this set. Let's just see when it, way back in Urza's, not in any shape or form around in the meta, and it's never been reprinted in a regular set. It's all either in decks or Modern Horizons, which I'm sure we'll get to look at Modern Horizons some point in the future. Fancy Clothes Tribal. Sounds like a thing. Okay. Oh yeah, Woodland Mystic. What was that? Another 1/1 that generates green, but it's 1 and a green. Obviously, Llanowar Elves is better than that because it's lower on the curve. And then we got things like which we've already seen. Yeah, and Mana Dork, 280 of these, and we have looked at this before. We've done the whole first printing thing. Let's quickly have a look here, and you can see initially when we start off, if we do it by release date, we've got a few cards early on which aren't in green, and then definitely over time you can see, as you look at more sets, definitely that type of card does tend to gravitate around green. And then we've got other, like I said, maybe higher up the curve, maybe they generate more green mana, or they scale differently, or you get additional stuff as well. And you got interesting things like Jorga Tree Speaker, which is a 1/1 for 1, but once you start leveling it up, then start to get some cool stuff going on. This is from Rise of the Eldrazi. It was a Deep Shadow. There was something else I was trying to think of. Maybe it doesn't necessarily include it in here, but the ones I'm thinking of as well, are, although different mechanisms. Oh, there we go. Lay Druid. So this idea of untapping a target land, so then you can use it to generate mana again. Yeah. So you'll get cards like that. And again, if we go in, I don't know if they have a particular tag that they also have. Well, yeah, it's a land untapper, isn't it? So Juniper Druid. So untappers for land by. Okay. Have I not? That's weird. Well, probably I've not. Probably done it a different way, of course. It's assuming. It's printing. Yeah, land untappers. There's Lay Druid there. And yeah, Twiddle, of course, you can use in that way because it's not. It's like land, creature, or artifact. Oh yeah, because the talismans. What else? Llanowar Druid was the one I was trying to think of as well. That's craft. So there's enchantments that sort of do that. And also notice, because of these untapping blue cards, which, because of the way they're worded, have the potential to untap lands. That's why you see a lot more of those for this. Awesome. Priest of Titania. Yeah. There's a saga. Oh no, sorry. That wasn't it, yeah. Okay, now, yeah. I nearly went off down another rabbit hole by accident. Thinking that wasn't in this deck. No, that's because it was down a rabbit hole. Civic Wayfinder. Yep, searching library for basic land card. Another thing that green does well. Tutor for basic land, virtual vanilla, district guide. Worse land. What does that do then? Turn a green, 2/2, Splatfield. Basic land or gate card. So Civic. Oh, I see why. Yeah. So Civic Wayfinder is worse than this, and that's because you have the additional flexibility where this does basic lands, this does basic lands, and gates, if you feel so inclined. Similar to Borderland Ranger. Referenced by Jungle Wayfinder, and lay of the land or with a body. Okay, yeah. And this again, tutoring of a basic land is another cool thing to be able to do. Oops. All thawing glaciers, things like Harrow, rampant growth, and I think you saw there one thing I'd tried, not that one, the other one is cards where it's actually on a creature, and one of those is Yawgmoth Elder, and of course Crows and Tusker. So if you look at those lists that you often see, where whatever you want to call them, like auto-include lists, I tend to think of lists that you use when you run out of ideas of what to put in your EDH deck, and you're trying to think, I need something in green that does this. At that point, that's when I tend to look at those lists actually. I think sometimes it's fun not to just inherently, use them as an auto-include. I mean, you can. There's no problem in it. Just personally, I maybe prefer to use it after the fact, after I've got all the other cool stuff that I might want to put in the deck. But certainly when I look at these lists, Crows and Tusker and Yawgmoth Elder are things that I see. Security Trader was it. Again, the usual suspects here. In fact, this is a pretty good example of that, where probably a large percentage of these, if you've ever played green, you've pondered or mused over including these in your green deck. Or maybe they just, like I said, they just go in there, like you can't help it. A bit like me with, those two white cards that I always forget what they are. Was it Phyrexian Rebirth? And, that legendary that sort of does all that ability buffing as well. Gilt-Leaf Palace. Somehow I managed to, not include this with my. I try and keep all the land together if I can, but sometimes I sort of forget. Yep. So this was one of these reveal cards. And we have looked at these in previous weeks. Interestingly, and as I pointed out last week and probably the week before, anyway, anytime, well, since, so last maybe 2 weeks before maximum. But yeah, the red white one looks like the only one that's actually been reprinted. Well, yeah. I mean, this was. Let's just go into here and look at this properly. Full artwork. So if I go in here, let's command the rest. Yeah. So this was yeah, they were originally printed in here. It's just sometimes if they come up on the list, or they're in a commander product. Generally what happens with Scryfall is it'll usually show you the most recent printing, but there's a few caveats I'm assuming in here where that's not the case, and being on the list is one of them, because essentially it's the same card. But this one here, not sure, maybe it doesn't. Yeah, maybe it just ignores commander stuff and it's only certain sets. Maybe, I don't know. Anyway. Imperious Perfect. Yeah, if you're playing elves, well, why wouldn't you? So cycle of these, but what was interesting, if you look at these, you can see there's actually, according to this, 8 cards. So let's just do this, see what's what. So they did all come from the same set. So it wasn't as if they were sort of spread over the two sets in the mini block. So we've got a Wizened Sen, which is Kithkin, the Mero Rigeri and Sign of Una, which are merfolk and fairies respectively, Mad Auntie, which is goblins, Incandescent Soulstroke, which is elementals, Surprise Sovereign, which is giants, Imperious Perfect, elves, and then the Timber Protector, which was tree folk. And that's because in the set, for some colours, there was more than one creature type, which it sort of played to. And you can see that's the case with blue, red, and green. So there was like an imbalance there. What else would I like to add? So it is a repeatable token generator. Interesting we notice. So they all, okay, let's just look and see what the template actually is like. So they all do +1/+1 except for this, which does 2/2 and trample. Well, it's a giant, so that makes a lot of sense. Now, the Kithkin, so apart from buffing, what else do any of these? Okay, so you've got an additional one here. As with this, where you've got Shroud and the Pump. He does Flying and Flash. Okay. That'll get stuff out from your hand. I'll have a look at the moment and see if that's given a particular name. Is that hand tutoring? So yeah, with some of these, so some we're just getting the regular +1/+1. With some we're getting that and an additional like layering of abilities. So in this case we've got Indestructible. This one does Tree Folk and Forest for that. This one with Shroud. And then for some of them there is an additional, like an ability. So there's 3 here where there's some sort of tap going on. So this is regeneration on this, no cost. This is tokens, which is the one we were looking at with a cost. And then this one is elementals from your hand. So the this one, the soul stoke, is that? Yeah, so that's sneaking something. Yeah, putting a permanent from your hand onto the battlefield. That was what I was trying to think. I knew there was some sort of term for these. Yeah, and we've definitely looked at sneaking before. Snake. Oh, Eureka. Wow. Cool. And Sneak Attack was printed in Saga, not surprisingly. Okay. Thoughtseize. Yep. We've definitely seen this before. Wow. Yep, $20 in its original printing. And tagged up as Thoughtseize. So opponent reveals their hand, you choose a card from them to discard. So yeah, in the past, over the previous weeks, we've spoken about choosing cards to discard, random cards. So in this case with Thoughtseize, we get to choose. You might have an instance where the opponent gets to choose, and then third one is where it's a random event. But the opponent revealing their hand and then you choosing it is, cards that do that have that magic slang, whatever you want to call it, of Thoughtseizing. Tarmogoyf, I don't know what there's much to add now. This has come up so many times. Seems to be one of those cards where, if you're playing green, you can go as Tarmogoyf. And mechanical foreshadowing, similar to Souls of the Lost. Chimney-Goyf. Altar of the Goyf. Oh, cool. Let's have a look at that. Why not? Okay. Whenever a creature you control attacks alone, it gets +X until end of turn, where X is the number of card types among cards in all your graveyard. Okay. I like the sound of that. So with Modern Horizons 2 and Jumpstart. Oh yeah, Historic Horizons, right? So what that will be online, wouldn't it? So it was in Modern Horizons 2. 5 to cast. Trimal I mean, the card types in graveyard is covered by 60 cards. Exalted. Creatures attacking alone. Did that? Yeah, oh, so it is an exalted on there as well. Okay, so I get it. That's why. Yeah. Unique type line. No other card has this same type line. Yeah, this is something we've definitely had a bit of a look at before, haven't we? These weird, particularly these weird hybrid types. Endless amounts of amusement. Oh, maybe. I thought that's interesting. Yeah, okay. Personal incarnation. Summon avatar. What did it get? Oh yeah, so it did get errated to an avatar incarnation. Fungusaur became a fungus dinosaur. Bird Maiden became a human bird. Bird Maiden was a bird maiden. Urza's Mine became land. Okay, so yeah. So the Urzas, they did that. What did a mold demon become? A fungus demon, right. I see. Oh, and this one. Yeah, that was in that, that was the commander in that, those two precons they did for Magic the Gathering Online, which existed before the paper commander product. Insect Wizard, okay. Yeah, it's funny because when I put this deck together, which I did for an episode, the only version I had of it was this. I'm not sure whether I think I might have had it because I bought it for some other reason, and I just went at the time for the cheapest, like legend from that period, and that was in Chronicles. But the copy of the Chronicles I had was so washed out. It did make me a little bit suspicious. I mean, I'm not sure why someone would print a fake Chronicles card, but anyway, it just looked weird. I mean, Chronicles cards look a little weird anyway. They look very washed out. But yeah, the quality of the print was very bad. And ultimately, the only thing I was able to do was I did track down I think an Italian language version of this that was considerably cheaper at the time. Just so I got it. But it was just basic because it looks so bad. The version of it. So yeah, I've got a black border version for it now. I can't remember if I had it before I actually put the episode went out or not. But yeah, there's an Italian. I've got an Italian language version of that. There you go. So mine, I don't know if it's quite as dark as that. Maybe it is, but yeah, that's what mine looks like. Okay. Terror. Yeah, unfortunately, a lot of the decks I'm featuring at the moment, we're seeing out cards over consecutive weeks. It just goes that way sometime. So, Doomblade stuff, yeah. 2 CMC, destroy target creature unless it's X. That's the sort of bucket they pour on the Doomblade taggings into. And yeah, so here's Terror in its original form. And yeah, sort of flick backwards and forwards between. So initially, it had this style. I'm trying to remember. There is a deck I have which I do have a Terror in it. I'm pretty sure, and I think it's got this version in it, like a sort of legacy. What do you want to call it? I'm trying to think of the correct term for decks that fall into that category of it, like an eternal format. That's the word I was looking for. And like an eternal format deck, probably it's got to be a commander deck, I suppose. And I'm pretty sure I've got that in it. This looked really odd at the time. This is pretty nice. So that's the Friday Night Magic one for 5th edition. I don't know if it was ever possible to get full versions of the old artwork. I think maybe, is that the only way you can get those? Just anybody that knows otherwise, correct me if I'm wrong. I think that might be the only way you can get that in a foil. I mean, there's a player's reward, but that's not foil, is it? It's only the ones that are starred. So yeah, $23 for a foil. So yeah, there's no other way that could turn up, could it? Because around this time, foiling wasn't a thing. Then there was that weird thing where foiling was a thing, but only because the card was included as part of like a theme deck. You know, as a additional card they'd sort of give away with a theme deck. But I don't know if that applied to things that weren't lands. Yeah, not sure. My brain gets a bit foggy about at the point at which different foil cards appeared. But yeah, so that's pretty cool. I mean, obviously the other artwork, there's foil versions of it, I'm assuming. Although look, it doesn't seem to indicate that there's a full version in 10th edition. Interesting. And there was that other weird thing with 10th edition, which I'll explore a bit more. I'm going to do another 10th edition artwork video when I get to a point where I've sort of, run out of artwork, binders to look through in terms of quite a lot of cards, because I still have my original what would you call it, like the card boxes which came with when I bought the 10th edition Fat Pack. And so all the 10th edition I bought in that period, after I started buying it and then so far forward, I kept together separate from everything else just for nostalgia reasons. So it's got this really interesting sort of little thing all on its own. And I know I've already gone through my sort of 10th edition binder where I just opened like 10 packs of boosters a lot later when I was doing all the modern, opening modern boosters. But yeah, there's that additional subset. So it'd be cool to go through that, because I think there was these alternate prints of cards which had slightly different wording in the rules text for some things. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see some of those in real life. Right, Chameleon Colossus, which we have, I believe, seen before. I certainly know I've spoken about it, so it's either going to be in one of these episodes or the art flip through Friday. Rare changeling does this really interesting thing with power. There's some other cards that do some stuff like this sort of across the board, but this does itself. Similar to You Spirit. So a power doubler. Yeah, they seem to be a bit thin on the ground, I suppose, and rightly so, because it's quite a powerful thing to be able to do. In fact, yeah, a lot of the times the other thing is, the whole, which I don't think is featured here, but the whole double strike thing. And in certain decks, sometimes I used to look out for those. But yeah, this is the slightly different than a double strike. This is increasing the power and toughness, doubling it by for a certain period of time. Interesting. Okay, there was something else I did want to mention which I saw here. Oh yeah, these. Okay. This was the one. So this thing, having mirror entity, I know I've got some deck. It doesn't exist in paper, unfortunately, but it was something I was playing around with, and it was a build of someone else's deck, but I just can't remember what article it came from. but I'm sure it had this in combination with goat tokens. So if anybody's come across that, I think it was a mono white deck, but there was some really interesting synergies because of, so creatures you control become XX until, and gain all creature types until end of turn. And the way it was designed was, I think the deck also pumped other creatures, but because you were turning your goat tokens into all creature types, it then pumped those as well. And there was something else in the deck which had the ability to spit out quite a lot of goat creature tokens. Now I know Trading Post can do it, but there is another card that I think interacts with being goaty. And yeah, so if anybody's come across something similar, let me know in the comment section. But yeah, definitely sure it was that. I don't even remember what I built it, whether I was dabbling around on MTGO or it was built just digitally. I'd still got it somewhere. I've got like a deck building software for the iPad, and when I used to take like bus trips, I used to commute, sort of commuting like an hour either way sometimes. I used to use that time to sort of build decks and do other various things on my iPad. So yeah, so we got that. We've got Shapesharer, this Calm Wanderer, Taurine Mauler. Ooh. You could build a very interesting 5-colour deck with all 5 of these in it, just to see where it took you, I reckon. Like, just load up that 5-colour commander whose name always escapes me, which you get to choose a creature type. Have that as a commander, put these 5 in, and then just see where the EDHREC algorithm takes you. Okay, Profane Command, yep. The cycle of Lorwyn commands. Black Sun's Twilight. I'll have a look at that one in a moment, actually. Okay, yep. So we have been down here before. You can see again, some have been reprinted, some haven't. But this thing, was that part of a cycle? Yeah, it was. Okay. Interesting. Let's have a look then. So these, Blue Sun's Twilight, Green Sun's. You know where I'm going to go in a moment, so don't you? Up to 1 target creature gets minus. Okay, so these are all, yeah, X. If X is 5 or more. Okay. So, in that case, the whole Sun's apostrophe thing in the name. Zenith. Maybe I should do this actually. Aha. What have we got? So if I do this by colour, sometimes it's easier to spot. Right. Or not. So White Sun's Zenith, White Sun's Twilight. Twilight Zenith, yeah. So yeah, that's the only. Just thinking, because immediately I saw it, the Zenith stuff sprung to mind. And yeah, they were from. This one's banned in modern. Yeah, Mirrodin Besieged. And yeah, the cycle of. Okay, so we've got. Oh, okay, that forms part of an EMA tutor as well, which we looked at, didn't we? I think we covered. Yeah, EMA. Okay. Wow. Yeah, Mirrodin Besieged. We've been here. Nice artwork. I wonder how much they are. Let's have a look. Ooh, $4. 141. $9. Yeah. Surprise, surprise. 47 cents and 45. Okay. So clearly, yeah. No wonder why people want the green one. Garruk. Yeah, part of the OG. Yeah, the Lorwyn 5. Yeah, Lorwyn 5. First printing, Lorwyn. Oops. Colour, there we go. Right, Boreal Druid. So we must be getting close to sideboard stuff. Yeah, Mana Dork, unique type line. Yeah, stuff we've looked at actually in this episode, haven't we? We've looked at unique type lines. Snow Creature Elf Druid, interesting combination. And a Mana Dork. 1/1 for 1, but this one generates colourless mana. So Kitchen Finks from Shadowmoor. So yeah, this is definitely going to be a card we have not seen before. I think, yeah, in this sort of current series iteration. Death trigger self, life gain, gains counters, and animate self. So things things on this card we have looked at before, but not necessarily specifically this card. So 1 green white creature Ophi. It's a 3/2, and when it comes into play, you gain 2 life. It has persist as well. So these counters, minus counters. And right, so when do we first see those visions? Lycanthrope, Matopi Golem, and Arboroth. Summon an Arboroth, which is an elemental now, and a Lycanthrope is now a plant fungus. Yeah, Serrated Bisquillion. I think I put this in something because I couldn't get a cheap serrated arrows, maybe, I don't know. Segmented Worm, River Kelpie. So you can see all these as we get into here. Oh yeah, these, the untapped, yeah. Forgot about this. That had untapped symbols in it, didn't it? Yeah. Oh yeah, that was in the set. Oh, we're going to see lots of cool things in the... Yeah, I'm going to really be looking forward to the Friday artwork video for this. Look at that artwork there. Yeah, look at all these Shadowmoor cards. And then, of course, yeah, it would have also cropped up in the follow-up smaller set, Eventide. Oh, yeah, this definitely next 2 weeks are going to be fun in the artwork. Although, yeah, wow, some of these are pretty creepy, aren't they? Oh, yeah, and then we didn't really have anything. Although, of course, -1/-1 was a thing for Scars and Mirrodin, but of course it was, a good deal of it was wrapped up inside of the Infect ability. Yeah, so that's probably why. Okay, Primal Command, well, another command, and yeah, we've already seen the cycle of these. I don't know if there's anything else I really want to add. So it's got all the good stuff: non-creature tuck, sweeper graveyard, tutor creature restock, life gain, tutor to hand, and it's part of that cycle. Right, so we're now into, yeah, we're definitely in sideboard territory now. Squall Line deals X damage to each creature with flying in each player. So in this form, only reprinted in time spell, but I'm assuming, I'm sure, yeah, we have had a look at this before. Hurricane. Well, surprise, surprise, Hurricane is the first printing. And we get things like Tropical Storm, Needle Storm, Downdraft, Squall. There, which does 2 damage. Some spiders which do it. Tornado Elemental. And there it is. So I'm assuming they're name checking this to some degree. So this was in that starter 1999 set, which we haven't really looked at. Because I think wasn't starter 1919 just a group of decks. I don't know if that was a set or not. I just can't remember. It might have been. Yeah, I can't remember how that manifested itself. Whether it was a group of decks or whether it was available as boosters or not. And then we've got other things. Yeah, it's funny. It's one of those things where I always expect to see hurricane type things more than, you know, yeah, I expect to see more than they actually are when I do these slices. But of course, this doesn't take into account the fact that several of these could have been reprinted across multiple sets. And I'm assuming that with Hurricane, yeah, so it was in 10th edition, interestingly enough. See that, the 10th edition, so X and a green, X damage. The one we're actually looking at, which is, let's try and compare and contrast these, deals X damage to each creature with flying and each player. The Hurricane does X damage to each creature with flying and each player. X and a sorcery speed versus oh yeah, so the Squall Line is instant speed. Right, I see now. Okay. So for the privilege of instant speed, it costs you an extra green, basically. Cool artwork. There's a formal version in 7th, and I'm assuming did. That's odd. We got Shriekmaw, which does, you know, time with Ravenous Chupacabra. It's basically terror on a body, with a body, however you want to think about it. So seen similar cards, was that? Yeah, because that surprised me, I think, the fact that for some reason I've always thought that it might be part of a cycle, but doesn't seem to be. So let's just review all the prints. So yeah, once it was printed in that particular set, then, you know, you've got, just to put this in chronological order, you've got Arch Enemy then after that. And probably the first time I came across it would have been in the original Arch Enemy, I think. I'm trying to remember whether I bought all of those first phase of Arch Enemy decks before I got the Commander product. Probably. But certainly it was in, you know, Commander 2011, and then it's cropped up in various Commander products. And then beyond that, again, you know, popular card in Commander, as you probably might have gathered. And then here and there, I mean, it's in Time Spiral Remastered. But most of the time, it does seem to be cropping up in precons. And then we got Slaughter Pact. Interesting card. So yeah, part of a cycle. And there they are. And we have looked at this before. There we go. So you can see all of them have this cost after the fact. So all 0 to cast. A reminder text to just, or rules text to reinforce the fact that although it doesn't have a casting cost, and a bit of a giveaway from the cardboard. Yes, in fact, it is black or blue or white or red or green, whatever, when you're playing, and then you get the thing, which is pretty cool thing at the time for 0 cost. But then, of course, the payback is that next turn you got to pay for it, and if you don't, you lose the game. So maybe you do have the mana. Maybe you just know that doing whatever you need to do with some of these might win you that turn, or do that. So you don't really care. Of course, there's always the problem that you could assume that, and then somehow your opponent, you don't, either you don't win the game, you don't win the game, or you don't get in a position. You do have enough mana to do it. Was what I meant to say, but then the following turn, somehow your opponent, somehow your opponent manages to make it so that you can't pay for this. I'm not quite sure how you do that. So at the beginning of your next upkeep, pay 2 and a black. If you don't, you lose the game. Okay. So you've got to make sure. Is it the case here that, let me just have a look at the rules text here. Slaughter Pact is countered and otherwise resolved. Perhaps they trigger that threatens you. Won't trigger, okay. With a legal target, but the target is not destroyed. Delayed into the next upkeep, and you'll have to pay the cost. So I suppose if you find some way of nerfing the effect that doesn't okay. So that makes sense. So it's good to know though, if it's countered or otherwise doesn't resolve, because the target became illegal, then the delay triggered ability that threatens you with a game loss won't trigger at the beginning of your upkeep. Okay, so how have they changed that then? Okay, so the later ones, it didn't explicitly say, it's like, okay. I mean, I shouldn't really do this on the fly, but there's going to be certain circumstances where, you think, great, this is going to work out fine, and then it doesn't, and you end up losing the game. At the begin, so it is the beginning of the upkeep. So I'm terrible at remembering, this is what happens over the years when you've played too much MTGO. What happens on upkeep? Upkeep step is the second step of the beginning phase. At the beginning of the upkeep step, any abilities that trigger either during the upkeep step or the beginning of the upkeep go on the stack. Then the active player gains priority the first time during their turn. So you've got this whole beginning phase. Draw step. Third step. So where's the untap step? The untap step is the first step of the beginning phase. The following events happen. So I was just trying to think of a situation where you wouldn't. So your land is untapped, and then after it's untapped, then you move on to the upkeep step. And this is all part of the so-called beginning phase. At least that's what it says on MTG Wiki. Let me show you here. Now this is actually a good discussion or a good thing to reflect on. So the beginning phase, yeah, this is where my knowledge has always been really wobbly. So, you know, because you get these sort of phases inside of, or steps inside of phases, I suppose is a better term. So you have this beginning phase, untap step, upkeep step, draw step. So we're talking about here is when our friend Slaughter Pact, you know, this is where you got to pay the piper. The beginning of your next upkeep, pay 2 in the back. If you don't, you lose the game. So I suppose what I'm saying is, what would put you in a position where when you cast this and you played this, you thought, oh yeah, that's great, I'm going to be able to pay for it, and then you can't. So I'm assuming what will do it in one instance is, well, one instance is where, yeah, so this is where you, at the point you play this, you do have enough mana to pay for it later. It's not the case that you've gone, oh, I'm going to win the game before that happens. Now this is where you've got enough mana. So between when you play this and when you come to pay it on the upkeep step, somebody, your opponent, would have had to have blown your lands up, I suppose, between that, because according to this, the untap occurs before the upkeep step. So yeah, you would have, you know, available mana. So it would have to be physically, the land would have to have been either blown up or locked down in some way that prevents the untap step from happening. Yeah. And then it's the draw step occurs after that. Okay. Yeah, look at all these flipping turn structures. And it's really funny when you play sort of Magic the Gathering Online or anything like that, where you've got like these individual stops that you can set in the game. And like I've found that one of the crucial things when as you start to play it more is working out like where's a good place to put stops. But yeah, look at all of this stuff. Like beginning phase. So this has got the individual steps actually put out, I think, hasn't it? Beginning phase. Yeah, untap step, upkeep step, draw step, main phase, combat phase, beginning of combat step. So there's a beginning of combat step, declare attacker step, declare blocker step, combat damage step, end of combat step, ending phase, end step, and then there's what's so-called cleanup step. So these are always, I find these are always interesting. Last opportunity for a player to perform any action before the next player's turn starts. And you go into cleanup step. So yeah, the steps of magic. So there we have it. Well, that was really interesting. Although we didn't have many cards that were new, I think there was only one. It was interesting to try and go down a few different rabbit holes than usual. Unfortunately, there's so many usual suspects now. I'm hoping once we get through, next few sets and stuff starts to really rotate out, then we'll be on to some newer stuff. I've not done so many deck musings on block constructed this particular period, simply because I couldn't find many. That's why. So there's been more of a chance that we're going to get cards we've seen in previous episodes if you regularly sort of check in these episodes. So thank you once again for watching. Bye for now, and I will catch you in a future episode.